colors of fall have arrived, and here in Oklahoma, those colors are crimson and cream. 125 years of tradition. The loyalty, the legacy, and of course, the lineage. QBU, the patriarch,
the end zone, Baker Mayfield.
the phenom,
Look at the speed! Kyler Murray, touchdown!
and now, the prodigal.
Draw Jalen Hurts, touchdown!
It's a new horizon. The wait is over. 2019 is here. If you didn't have goosebumps already, you sure do now. Sooner faithful, this is your state. This is your team. And this is your pregame show. Live from the campus of the University of Oklahoma, this is Game Day U.
Welcome to Game Day U here at OU. I'm Brooke Mursky in our Gaylord Hall studios. Plenty of college football action on the table today, and of course, the Sooners won't play until tomorrow, but several teams opened their season yesterday under the Friday night lights. Let's kick it off. Sorry, we'll get to you to the stadium team, but let's get started with a stunner out in Reno, Purdue, Nevada. The Wolfpack trailed 24-7 in this game. Let's see it. Now, freshman quarterback Carson Strong wasn't going down quietly. He goes up top here to Elijah Cooks, who does the first. Look at the athleticism. That brings the deficit to 10. Look at that there. Now, under a minute to go in the fourth quarter, Strong strikes again, and again, it's Cooks on the receiving, and it's a tie game. 3 seconds to go. Freshman walk-on Brandon Talton. How is this for a debut? Now, 56 yards at the horn. Nevada walks off 34-31 in the final. Let's move it on over to Oregon State and Oregon. Shiloh talked earlier about, or she will talk about Tylan Wallace second quarter. And Wallace takes over 36 yards to the house here, and just minutes later, he's back at it again. This time, he reels in 21-yard pass from Spencer Sanders. Wallace would finish with a 92 yards and 2 scores. The icing on the cake comes courtesy off Chuba Hubbard. 53 yards to pay dirt to give Oklahoma State a 3-score lead. Pokes roll 52-36. Out to Denver for the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Colorado State and Colorado. Second quarter, Dante Wright breaks loose for the Rams. 41 yards for the speedy freshman. Colorado fights back. Steven Montez to Laviska Chenault. The Buffaloes grab the lead at the half. Fourth quarter, Alex Fontenot puts the nail in the coffin with this scrappy 22-yard score. This was his third touchdown of the night. Buffs 52-31. All right, we're off to a good start. I'm here at the desk with everyone. How are you guys feeling?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
James Myers, Shannon Earhart, and Cal Day.
That's right.
You excited for some college football?
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Yes.
Well, I would like to say, what better way to start off than talking about Heisman picks? Heisman. Let's get it on going, Cal.
So early.
Well, it's going to be weird not to reference an Oklahoma quarterback, but to get things started on the Heisman front so early in the season, it's going to be weird not to talk about Jonathan Taylor, especially after his performance last night. But for my early on Heisman favorite, it's Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback at quarterback at Clemson. Trevor Lawrence last season, 30 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions. Very impressive, especially as a true freshman. You're going to see some highlights. He's got some weapons to his disposal. It's T. Higgins and Justin Ross, one of the deepest wide receiver units in the entire country. Now, Lawrence also has the ability to run the ball in addition to throwing it. He throws a beautiful deep ball. In these marquee games last year against Notre Dame and Alabama, he threw 3 touchdowns each, and that's against 2 playoff teams. One of those in the national championship game. So Trevor Lawrence looks great. He's got a great roster, a great supporting cast with him, a really good offensive line. And of course, it's hard to go against Dabo Swinney, especially, and his entire coaching staff is back again, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So Trevor Lawrence, that's going to be my early on Heisman favorite.
Awesome, Cal. I want to hear from you, Shannon. What do you got?
Okay, well, I know, don't sleep on him, but I'm going to say Shea Patterson. I know he's underrated, but look.
Okay.
Shea Patterson is such a quick thinker. He's fast on the ball, especially with their new no-huddle offense. I really think that he has a lot to bring. He uses his legs to create opportunities, and he is so good at throwing the ball on the run. Unlike a lot of other Heisman quarterbacks, unlike a lot of other quarterbacks, I really think that Patterson can bring it to the table, especially under Harbaugh for his second year. I think that Patterson can really bring some opportunity. Don't sleep on him, all right?
You say don't sleep on him? I'm hibernating.
Okay, no. He finished as the number 2 quarterback in the Big Ten last year.
Okay, think about that sentence. It is the Big Ten. They don't- do they have
Okay,
quarterbacks?
look.
Here's the thing. The last time we saw Shea Patterson, he threw 2 interceptions against a very good Florida defense given, but he didn't look good in that Peach Bowl. So I'm just not sold. Of course, they do have the new coordinator.
It's okay, yeah, they have Josh Gaddis this year. I think that they're going to do pretty well. I feel like both Patterson and Gaddis are going to click, so I don't know. I want you to relax.
Okay.
Let the
One.
season play out.
It's an argument. It's an argument.
2 picks, 1 touchdown against Florida. I don't know.
Ooh.
Now, when it comes to my pick, these guys want to go through the air. I want to go on the ground. I'm talking about someone from the Ohio State University. He's not throwing the ball. He's running that ball. It's going to be J.K. Dobbins. He explodes out of that backfield. And, man, he's got some slippery moves, to say the least. And this guy has wonderful yards after contact, getting yards and just gobbling them up. I think he's going to be good early. He's got standout games that he's going to be playing in against FAU, Cincinnati, and Miami, Ohio. Now, in 2017, his first year, he had 7.2 yards a carry on average. He had north of 1,400 yards. Last season, it was a little bit of a down year for him, only 1,000 yards rushing, but I think this season, behind a skilled and talented offensive line, he's going to be able to have that great vision he has. Just look at this. Look at those yards after contact. Not even able to bring that big man down till later. I think he's going to be wonderful for Ohio State on a team that already has weapons. He's going to be versatile in the backfield. He's going to be versatile as a receiver. I think people are sleeping on him. I just think he's going to come out, explode, and be great in that Big Ten.
Well, you talked about the offensive line. They returned 4 of 5 starters on that Ohio State offensive line, plus with their new head coach, Ryan Day. I think that will complement him well. I think that he really could be a contender. I like that pick. Good job. Nice.
Appreciate it.
Good job.
Make a new pick after that.
Exactly. I think you all had some valid arguments and some interesting picks. I know, obviously, at Oklahoma, we talk about Jalen Hurts all the time, but it's good to kind of dive in and see what else we can find from other college football teams.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is an obvious one, so I think we're kind of trying to spread the radar a little bit.
Jalen,
little more
obvious. Shea
options.
Patterson, not so obvious. We'll see. I'll eat crow. I
Okay,
guess.
look, I think that Harbaugh can take him far.
Yeah.
Harbaugh took Colin Kaepernick to the Super Bowl with the 49ers, so I'm not worried. I think that it's going to be good. He also played football in the NFL, so I think that he knows what he's doing with his quarterbacks. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all.
I don't know, after Michigan would like to run the ball on first down so many times, I've got my hesitations with them with throwing the ball here, so.
Okay.
Well, we'll find out. Shea Patterson's going to face that Ohio State defense later on. That's a pretty
That's
going to
be a tough matchup.
Yeah, they're bringing back 9 starters on that defense, so has the potential to be really good.
And 8 on the offense too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up here in the studio. Coming up next, we'll hopefully get to send you out to the remote team where they will potentially make their preseason picks for the college football playoff as Game Day U rolls on.
Welcome to Game Day U. It's the first show of the year. Super excited. I'm your host, Shiloh Sellers, and we are here with a beautiful sight around us, the Gaylord Memorial Stadium, the Palace on the Prairie. Guys, I am joined by the 3 analysts who have a lot to say. We've got Will Sule at the end, Christian Nunley in the middle, and of course, rounding it out with Sam Brown. Guys, how are you feeling today?
I am. So this is probably the most excited I've been in about 8 months since football season ended last year. It seems like we've been waiting forever, and now it's here. It feels good. Yeah, I'm excited.
As soon as that Super Bowl ends in February, everybody's like, oh, it's a slow life for a sports media fan. So it's good to be back in football season.
Yeah, I mean, as Shiloh mentioned, we're in the Palace on the Prairie. Like, we are in, like, if this isn't a dream come true for the 4 of us, then I don't know what it is.
It's so peaceful. It's so peaceful. Other than that big lawnmower in the back that's making a nice bit of noise, it's just beautiful. It's
gotta
empty.
keep the grass nice, right?
This is a mecca of college football. We're a lucky group to be here.
Absolutely. And tomorrow, the big day, the season opener, OU against Houston, a rematch of sorts. Guys, what are y'all kind of looking forward to going into that game?
I mean, when you go into this, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that you're talking about when it comes to Houston. Like you said, it's a rematch, a game that we lost a couple years ago in a dramatic fashion in Houston. Dana Holgorsen, a coach that we're familiar with, has not exactly been friendly in the media to OU in recent days. Has had the audacity, I would say, to question Lincoln Riley. There's going to be a lot of, I think I could see chippiness coming into this game, but there's a lot of question marks. I mean, obviously Houston's a team that's got a lot of talent, but they, on paper, shouldn't have a chance here against the team of OU's caliber. But, I mean, tomorrow we're going to have to see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great environment. A whiteout. I can't remember the last time it was a whiteout in Norman. I think it's going to be a great environment. I'm hoping it's like Penn State level, whiteout kind of thing. But there are a lot of things I'm looking forward to. The defensive coordinator at Houston came from Arkansas State. So Coach Bedenball's been talking about how he's been looking at their front seven and how they've aligned and how they're going to come, whether that's a 4-man front, 3-man front. And guys, we got a completely new offensive line. We've got 4 guys, other than Creed Humphrey, who haven't started before and haven't been expected to come into as big of a role as they will this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing the running back committee get the ground pound game going early and seeing this offensive line and seeing what they can do.
Yeah, it seems like so long ago, that 2016 loss to Houston at NRG Stadium, the Baker Mayfield days, seemed like forever ago. Lincoln Riley was talking about it earlier this week. He said they just played awful. That's the only thing he really remembers about it. So it'll be interesting to see the mentality that they come out with and the energy. A lot of those players, guys like Neville Gallimore, C.D. Lamb for one, there were players who've been around for a few years, who were around for that Houston game. They're going to be here. They're going to be excited to get revenge on this Houston team. And, you know, like they said, a new start, a new defense, a lot of overhauls, so a lot of question marks that are going to be answered come tomorrow night.
Yeah, kind of like you said, we did get the chance to talk to Lincoln Riley and a lot of the other guys as they prepare going into this Houston match tomorrow.
It's going to be a great thing for our team, our fan base, our recruits.
We're definitely, we're ready for the opportunity to showcase, the work that we put in. And obviously, we still have a few more days to prepare, but, we're definitely looking forward to the opportunity.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've been waiting for it since January, so just, going through these months, building chemistry, working the weight room and everything, everybody's ready to show what they can do.
We're certainly looking forward to it, and then that on top of that, getting a chance to play a really good team in Houston. A team that, like us, is going through some changes, obviously with new head coach, a guy we're all familiar with, and Dana Holgorsen, fantastic coach.
It's a new year for us, and also, we get to see an electric quarterback, who was a Heisman runner, you know what I'm saying? He was in a Heisman race last year. And so that's really going to put us to test, to see if we're actually for real.
I know a bunch of guys from down there, so it's going to be a fun one. Competing with those guys in Houston since, Little League and in high school and stuff like that, so it's going to be a fun one.
You really kind of think about it in the last 3 years, we probably had biggest name to come out of the Austin area in a long time. We've had the biggest name to come out of the Dallas area in a long time, and now one of the bigger names to come out of the Houston area in a long time that have played quarterbacks for us in 3 consecutive years, so that lines up pretty good.
Jalen is a very smart player, very experienced, so, and he's been through this stuff a lot of times, so he knows exactly what to do, and we're expecting him to do what he's been doing for the past 3 years. So.
Game. It's going to be on Sunday. It's going to be under the lights at 6:30. What are, some things just going into that game that you're expecting that you want to watch for from OU? There's a lot of moving parts this season.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I think the thing that everyone really is looking forward to seeing is how this defense is going to turn out. I mean, Alex Grinch, obviously, new guy in town, going to have a lot to do with how successful OU is this year. I've got a couple of people that I'm really looking out for. Deller and Turner Yell. I mean, that's a name that is so fun, like Deller and Turner Yell. Like that is starting a strong safety. Yeah. He's a guy that didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year. Like he played in a lot towards the back of the year, but he's starting a strong safety.
Really stood out in the spring, apparently.
Oh, of course, yeah, and he clearly has impressed Grinch. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can make an impact. Ronnie Perkins and Jalen Redmond on the defensive line. A lot of youth in this defense that I see making an impact very early. Alex Grinch strikes me as the kind of coach who's not going to sit on his laurels, like let people who have been historic starters in this program just sit and like enjoy that just because they've been here. Experience to him doesn't mean anything. It's results. It's what he can get out of these players. So I don't see him being the kind of coach to say, oh, Parnell Motley, oh, Trey Brown, you guys may have played like okay that quarter, but we're going to keep you in because you're experienced. Like he's going to shuffle things up. Like he's looking to make changes. So I see a lot of youth on this defense making a big impact as we go forward. I mean, Buki is obviously like a guy that like everyone's kind of like been excited about for a really long time about can he be that 5-star defensive back that we've been looking for a really long time. He didn't live up to that hype, I would say, in this past year. But he's starting at nickel, whether that was going to happen or whether that is made happen because of the Trey Norwood injury, we'll have to see. But it'll be interesting to see just how the freshmen and sophomores of this defense handle Grinch's system and if they can make an impact.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because we do have a lot of youth on our defense, but we also have a lot of experience. Like Neville Gallimore has been on the team for the last 3 years. Kenneth Murray's been on the team for 3. You know what I'm saying? Guys that have seen some tough, painful games that have gained some very valuable experience in those like long, late season moments where you got to push through. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this defense. But on the other side of the ball, the offensive line, those guys, we just sent out 4 guys to the draft.
Yes.
Yeah. All
Unheard of.
gone by the second day 2, day 3.
Unheard of. So who's going to replace them? You know, I mean, we've got a group who is led by Creed Humphrey, who Lincoln Riley has said is the best football player he's ever seen.
Just high praise.
That's
high praise.
High praise. Yeah. Kyler Baker, so many other great players in his past, much less at Texas Tech. So Creed Humphrey leading this team, this offensive line, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have. There's a whole lot of questions surrounding the offensive line because we don't know who's going to be out there. All media guys in Oklahoma have been asking Beatonbow for the last 2-3 weeks, kind of, who are we going to see out there at left tackle, right guard, you know? And he's just been like, I guess we'll see come we'll see come game time. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the offensive line has got and seeing who's going to be out there.
Who jives together, as he says a lot.
Yeah, exactly. We saw with that depth chart that was released the other day, the lineup that we have with Marquise Hayes, Adrian Ely,
Eric
smaller
Swinson.
guys. Who am I thinking of? Eric Swinson, that's right, on the tackle position as well. Those are some of the older guys that have been around for a while. So they're somewhat established for sure. However, I'm going to shift back to the defense for my point. And I like what you made the point about the fact that there are a lot of experienced guys. That's the thing I think not a lot of people are talking about is the fact that, yes, this defense got picked apart a little bit last year. Yes, they struggled. Yes, they lost their confidence. But most, if not all of those players are back this year. And they've got that experience and they're better for it. Now, with that said, there's a reason Oklahoma was, 114th in total defense, 121st in red zone defense. Second, however low they were on takeaways. There's a reason why that happened. It was just bad fundamentals. Everything was bad fundamentals. And this highlight video that I put together, it's a nice little representation of some of OU's best of moments, or really their worst of moments. It's just
lowlights?
Depends how you see it. The highlights for the other team, for sure.
Right.
It's just the bad tackling, the bad form, the secondary players not turning around to look at the ball. Alex Grinch has made an emphasis with that ball hawking. He said several times, you don't know where this ball's going to go. You have no idea. It could go to you or the other player. Having that mentality and attacking the ball is something that I think is going to be a breath of fresh air for that secondary. And just getting pressure on the quarterback, proper tackling, that's stuff that they've emphasized the entire time. Not just Grinch, the new DB coach, Roy Manning, the new inside linebackers coach, Brian Odom. So whether that pans out come tomorrow, we'll have to find out. But expectations are high amongst the coaching staff, so we'll have to see if the players can live up to it.
It's just really interesting because there was such a large defensive recruiting part of this class that's come in, and then we also have Alex Grinch coming in. It's almost like it's like a whole new revamp defensively for the Sooners, which is really interesting.
And that's the thing, it's not like OU has not gotten any bad defensive recruits. They've got some blue chip players. Ronnie Perkins was a 4-star player. Kenneth Murray was a 4-star player coming out of Houston. Those are all talented players. You talked about Buki, who's a 5-star coming out of Florida. So they've got the talent there. The pieces are there. It's just about putting the puzzle together.
Yeah.
Right.
You talked about blue chip players like Ronnie Perkins. I'm really looking forward to seeing Ronnie Perkins go out there.
Oh, yeah.
Give him a starting role, get him on third down, long third down situations, and let him attack off the edge. That guy is scary. He's fast. He's big. I'm telling you, he's going to have at least 6-7 sacks this season. I'm really looking forward to seeing him elevate his game. Yeah.
In addition to that, like Jalen Redmond was a guy that was hurt most of the year last year, but in the little amount of time that he did play, he made a big impact. Like he was a guy that came in out of high school, was a big name recruit. Like it's been a kind of that story on the defensive end. We've had a lot of guys that have been like big names coming out of high school. Like we have had a top 10 recruiting class the last 2 years. Like there's a reason for that. It's about making that talent work for you, which I think is one of the big emphasis, like one of the big points of emphasis that Alex Grinch has made. And like some of these guys like Woody Washington, Jaden Davis, who are getting reps at corner, got a lot of noise out of camp from them. They're on the depth chart pretty low right now, but like I said, come 2-3 weeks from now, like there could be a lot of spots open for people who are performing at a high enough level to justify being on the field for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, and I think that's the way the offensive line is kind of shaping up as well. Coach Bedenbaugh says, you never know which group of 5 guys is going to mesh well until you see them out there.
Right.
Yeah, so seeing the depth chart, it shows you who's going to be out there to start the game, but you don't know who's going to finish the game or who's going to finish the season out throughout.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how well they are able to mesh together and which group of offensive linemen can figure it out.
And that's an interesting point too, because in addition to losing 4 offensive linemen, they played the whole season. Like those 5 guys they were the guys. None of them really got hurt. Like there wasn't a whole lot of question marks at any point. Like that was the most solid part of our team last year. Like that was the unquestioned unit.
That unit's going to show up every weekend no matter what.
And so now, how can Lincoln Riley adjust? Because Jalen Hurts is an incredible talent. I'm sure we'll talk about him later in the show. But he's not Kyler Murray mobile. Like he's a mobile quarterback, but he's not the same speedster that Kyler Murray was that could just run around half the players that came at him. Like Jalen Hurts is not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So this offensive line has to be able to protect him better, maybe not better than they did last year, but better than the standard. Like Kyler could get out of a lot of situations that Jalen's not going to be able to.
Yeah, we'll have to see maybe if Lincoln Riley adjusts the tempo maybe of play a little bit to where it's a little bit quicker in terms of passes, the screen plays that we saw a lot last year, the handoffs, just so Jalen doesn't have to feel like he's pressured in that offensive line, can kind of maybe gain that confidence a little to the point where later on in the season Lincoln Riley can expand the playbook a little bit, maybe have some fun with it. I don't know.
Sure.
Well, we've got plenty ahead here on Game Day U. We'll be talking Heisman contenders, and we'll be giving our college football playoff predictions. But first, we're going to keep it right here in the Big 12 with our conference preview. Coming up next.
And it's called Hollywood! Lights, camera, action, Hollywood Brown! And that'll do it! Intercepted by Parnell Motley. Oklahoma survives. And the Longhorns with a program-defining victory.
I felt like we needed a new voice. We needed just a little bit of a spark, and I thought that making the change was right for that reason, and also because I felt good about the guys that we have in this room and a plan for the rest of the season, because this team's got a lot in front of them.
Murray trying to scamper out with plenty of running
and he makes it look easy. Look at him go.
You're not going to catch him.
That's why Kyler Murray is the best player in college football.
Play fake. Knocked down for a safety.
Score is standing up for a second time. The Tide pouring it on in Miami.
Lincoln Riley and the Sooners should be proud of their team. Down 28, fought back and gave themselves a chance there in the second half to make it a competitive game.
After that crushing loss to Alabama to end the 2018 season, OU has unfinished business, and so too does one man who was on the other sideline during that game, the newest Sooner signal caller. Here's Meredith Mulkey with more on the quarterback that has Sooner Nation buzzing.
I'm coming to you from Heisman Park, just east of Owen Field. Heisman Park. How many schools could even have one of these? Well, there are 18 colleges who can claim to have more than one Heisman winner, and 10 of them have at least 3. But only OU and 3 other schools can boast any more than that. And Sam Bradford here is the last Sooner to take home the award and have his statue in the park. Apparently, Bakers and Kylers are on the way. So that's 7 for the Sooners, which ties them with Notre Dame and USC for the most in college football. But back-to-back winning Heisman quarterbacks, well, that was a first. So are we being reasonable if we even think Jalen Hurts could make it a three-peat this season? While filling the shoes of Baker and Kyler isn't an easy task, Jalen is coming in with an impressive resume from Bama. Last season, he completed 72.9% of his passing, throwing for 765 yards with 8 touchdowns. And after losing the starting QB spot to Tua Tagovailoa earlier in the season, Jalen stuck around to help his team, especially in the SEC championship. Now, while Jalen doesn't make the crazy throws like Baker or run around the field like Kyler, he has the experience necessary to lead this Oklahoma team. We know the Heisman talk will be around all season long, and personally, I don't think it's unreasonable to have Jalen in the conversation. Now that he's with Lincoln Riley, I think he at least has a chance to be a nominee for the award in December. Riley produced 2 Heisman in his first 2 years as head coach, so who's to say he can't keep the streak alive? Heisman or not, having Jalen on the field will be a treat for Sooner fans this season, and you can guarantee all eyes will be on him tomorrow as he takes the field for the first time as the Sooners' new QB1. Back to you guys in the stadium.
Well, let's get rolling, and let's start things off in Stillwater. A lot of question marks for Oklahoma State heading into the season, but they do have one of the game's most talented wideouts in Tylan Wallace. Last season, Wallace racked up nearly 1,500 receiving yards as a sophomore. If he can take another leap in terms of production, the Cowboys should make some noise. And then there's Sam Ellinger and Texas, who won 10 games last season for the first time in nearly a decade. They'll look to vault into the college football playoff discussion in 2019. Now, it's clear that this team lives and dies with Ellinger, who accounted for over 40 touchdowns last season, but they've also got a top 3 recruiting class coming in. But obviously, it all comes back to the Big 12 champion 4 years running, the Oklahoma Sooners. Jalen Hurts isn't nearly as physically gifted as Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray, but he's efficient and he makes very few mistakes. It helps that he's got a go-to guy in CeeDee Lamb and 2 capable backs in Kennedy Brooks and Trey Sermon. Until further notice, the road to Arlington runs through Norman. Now, guys, OU just runs Big 12 right now.
Yeah, sure.
But who do you think is going to kind of give them the run for their money when it comes to scoring, that champion? And what do you think you're going to see kind of just going into Big 12 play just in general?
Yeah. So I have Iowa State as my my big dark horse this year. I mean, I think we all across the board have Oklahoma as the Big 12 champion. I think that's a pretty safe pick. Not that it's a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination with Texas improving this year. But I see Iowa State, to me, as the biggest threat to Oklahoma in the Big 12. Matt Campbell has this team coming off of back-to-back 8-win seasons. He has a quarterback now in Brock Purdy, who threw for 2,250 yards last year, coming in midway through the season as a freshman. he'll only improve this year. You have to imagine. I mean, they're replacing a lot of people, replacing two big offensive weapons in David Montgomery and Hakeem Butler, who are both going to be making big-time money in the NFL this year. But I see Iowa State, who has a favorable schedule, in my opinion. They host Texas this year. Well, they have to come here to play Oklahoma. They're a team that people are not really giving a whole lot of respect, and I think that will play into their favor a lot this year. They have had the second-ranked defense in the Big 12 last year in both defensive efficiency and total defense, which is an underrated stat in this conference, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you can bring, like in TCU's found success in that way. If you can bring defense to a league that has very little of it, it can make you separate yourself from the rest of the pack. Not only do they have that defense, but they have this quarterback that can lead them to what I think could be a really successful season in the Big 12. And then Matt Campbell is going to be that kind of guy about a year from now that people are going to be talking about. Where is he going to go? Like, which big-name program is going to poach him?
They're already talking about where he's going to go. He was in the Ohio State rumors this offseason. He was in some NFL rumors this offseason, which he kind of laughed at Big 12 Media Days. But
yeah. We've definitely discussed Matt Campbell yesterday. We talked about how it seems like Iowa State is always prepared. They always go in every single game, although they might not be favored in the game by Vegas odds, but they're going to play their hearts out, and they're always prepared. They're always going to know where to be. They're always going to make plays, and you're not going to walk out of Ames with an easy victory in your hands.
Yeah. Oh no, and I'm circling the game in Ames. They play Texas in mid-November in Ames, and it could be snowing, and I I'm going to pray to God the week before, dear God, send some snow to Ames so we can get some snow. One snow football is just electric anytime you can get it. But if we can get some Texas, Iowa State in the snow late November, that's going to be a game that people are going to want to circle. They're going to want to watch that game.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State is probably the consensus third best team in the Big 12, I would say, behind Oklahoma and Texas. And I think the reason why you're saying maybe there's not as much noise around it is I think because of the loss of David Montgomery and Hakeem Butler. Those are their two best skill players, hands down.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I don't know who at the running back spot is going to fill in for that. Matt Campbell talked about a few decent standout running backs and wide receivers, but no big names really. But that's what Matt Campbell does. No one really knew Hakeem Butler before he blew up last year.
Yeah.
No one really knew Alan Lazard the year before that. No one really knew David Montgomery before he blew up. So that's just what Matt Campbell does.
Yeah. As we talked about Big 12 champions, and I think we all unanimously agree. Oklahoma will win.
Sure.
I don't think
fifth year running.
Yeah, the fifth year running. That'll be crazy. Some guys will have 5 rings on their hands. It'll be
the thumb ring.
You can get a ring
That's
big
a
enough for
really
the thumb,
big
you think?
thumb
Like
ring.
if they've already got the other 4 covered.
They're already thinking about it.
I'm starting on the pinky on the other hand.
I would just watch. A Big 12 watch.
Oh, that would be sick.
That'd be clean.
Lincoln, you listening? No.
Get some chains or something?
Yeah, but there's a lot of things I am looking forward to this season in the Big 12. We talked about Tylan Wallace. I think he's really going to make another stride. You think about the quarterback he had last season, Taylor Cornelius, a guy who's, I mean, he's a good quarterback. I'm not gonna knock his play or anything, but it's Taylor Cornelius.
Yeah, he's not the one that's.
It's not Mason Rudolph.
He's not getting in the first team All Big 12 or anywhere near it.
Or honorable
Spencer
mention.
Sanders.
Yeah.
Last night, over 300 total yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
There's a quarterback who can get him the ball.
And you start to get Tylan Wallace 15 targets a game. I'm telling you, that guy's going to be someone you look at in the Biletnikoff Award. Another team I'm looking forward to seeing is Kansas. If you're the athletic,
I've got to say right now, before you go into your take, I have never heard anyone say the team I'm looking forward to is Kansas.
Unless you're talking about basketball.
Listen,
Unless talking about basketball.
I never thought
season.
I'd see the athletic director at Kansas make as bold of a move as picking up Les Miles. You can't be trying to change the entire culture unless you start with a coach, and that's exactly what they've done. So I think we'll start to see their recruiting classes change in the future, and I think this is a step to really improve the culture of football in Lawrence, Kansas. I think you might not see the results immediately, like they might not win 5 games, but I think we'll start to see strides, and they won't be a team you see on your calendar and like, oh, it's Kansas, dub.
Right.
You know, I think in the future it'll start to be more important games as we go down the Big 12. And I think it's only good for the conference, you know?
Yeah.
Every game is important, and especially in college football when strength of schedule matters. So if Kansas starts to improve, then it only helps the entire Big 12 as a whole.
It's only it's going to get tough for Les Miles at first, just because of the talent that he's bringing in.
Yes.
Other than their running back, who's arguably, I think, the best running back in the Big 12, Puka Williams.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of talent there. They've got a couple decent players in the secondary. They've got a decent player at nose guard, but other than that, it's a lot of unprovens, and they're still trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is going to be going into the year.
At Big 12 Media Days, he said, I got to look at my talent and play where they can play. And I think that goes with Iowa State. I think that's why Matt Campbell is very successful, as he has a great way of doing that. But I think that's going to be Miles's really key, is figuring out who can play where.
Yeah, Les Miles already making money. He was getting Rick Ross at the spring game performance.
That's fair.
That's a statement right
Those
there.
are the kind of things that improve Kansas football. You know, it changes the entire aura of the Kansas football team. No longer are they the joke or the bottom feeders of the Big 12. You know, it's just going to constantly improve, and it's only better for the Big 12.
Yeah, and I mean, a rising tide lifts all boats. Like, if you can bring the bottom up, if you can strengthen your weakest link, then it makes the whole chain stronger. Like, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it really will be a culture thing. But you also have to remember, they call him the Mad Hatter for a reason. Like, Les Miles is not going to go into these games and roll over. Like, he's going to come in with some craziness coming in. He's going to try and create chaos. And while like that could work for it, like, it's going to work for a few games. Like, there will be times when Kansas will be a problem, and you have never, like, in the last, I don't even know, 10 years since Mangino, like, Kansas hasn't been a problem in a while, and they aren't going to be a threat for a few years, I don't think, but they can be a pest for sure in the next coming years, just if Les Miles can bring that culture the way
You know, we kind of touched on this already, just with y'all all saying a consensus of OU's going to take this championship, but specifically give me your pick and why you picked that.
Why I pick Oklahoma?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it is just a little, like, we've talked about talent a lot on this show already. There is too much talent in this team for them not to be competing for a Big 12 championship. I think the Big 12 this year is, I don't know if I would say better, but more competitive in the middle. Like, the middle of the Big 12 is going to be a really interesting race between Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, rebuilding West Virginia Tech. Like, the middle of the pack in the Big 12 is going to be interesting, with Oklahoma, Texas, and Iowa State, in my opinion, on a completely different tier. So I have Oklahoma winning, one, due to a favorable schedule, bye weeks before Tech, a bye week before Iowa State, Kansas before Texas, will allow Lincoln Riley to get his players prepared for the big games this year. Exactly. Which is huge, especially with a lot of the turnover that we're seeing on the offensive line and defense that we're going to have very little depth defensively this year. So I see Oklahoma being the best team, not only on paper, best coached. Like, there's just too many positives in their favor. It's going to take it's college football. It's craziness. That's why we love this sport. Anything can happen. But I think what will have to happen for Oklahoma to be dethroned from the Big 12 championship will have to be something drastic.
Yeah. I think this is one of those years Oklahoma runs the schedule, and we kind of start cruise, and we play Oklahoma State last game of the season, and Oklahoma State they've been that year. You know, they walk into that game 5-6, have Oklahoma scheduled on their season since July, and all they've got looking forward to is beating Oklahoma. So I think in order for Oklahoma to win, they've got to not take any of their opponents for granted. They've by far, I mean, I think we can all agree they've got the talent to just run the table this year. But it's, will they put it together? Will they get complacent and try in their hopes of getting the fifth straight consecutive Big 12 title? But I think it's in Oklahoma's hands to lose.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're the clear-cut favorite in this, just because, like Will said, there's just so much talent on this team. It's hard to ignore. I mean, from the quarterback spot all the way through to the secondary on the other side, even though, believe it or not, there is some talent on that defensive side of the ball. I think the big question, I think a lot of people are wondering, is what improvements Jalen Hurts is going to show as a passer. I think that's going to determine a lot of how the offense runs, because even if he can show some slight improvement, Jalen Hurts was a passer who really was all about the first read, really didn't make his progressions as well as you would have liked a quarterback to see. Here comes Lincoln Riley. In comes Lincoln Riley to teach that, to instill that mentality in Jalen Hurts. And I think if he can kind of see the field and see the game a little better, that's going to do wonders for his ability as a passer. It's going to do a lot for their offense. And I think the defense is going to improve. They're not going to be by no means elite. They may not even be great. They may not even be very good. I think they're going to be good enough to get the job done. That's all they need in the Big 12. OU's mentality right now, they've got the perfect blend of talent and confidence, and their confidence level is through the roof right now, because they know any other team that wants to win the Big 12, they're going to have to go through Oklahoma first, and they're not going to let them go through Oklahoma. So I've got Oklahoma winning the Big 12, but My sleeper team. I didn't get my sleeper team in. Can I get mine in?
I'm sorry, yes, Sam.
Go ahead. Thanks, Charlotte. My sleeper team. How about the Baylor Bears? I'm very excited to see what Matt Rule and the Baylor Bears. Let's just move on to the next one.
Right.
No, I'm very excited to see what Matt Rule can do down in Waco. You know, at Big 12 Media Days, he really impressed me, and some of the things he said stood out to me. First of all, their quarterback, Charlie Brewer. I think has a chance to be one of the sneaky best quarterbacks in the Big 12. He can throw. He can sling it. He can run with his feet. And he's got some receivers around him. Denzel Mims, the speedster Chris Platt is coming back for his graduate transfer year. They've got a nice running back by committee. What impressed me about what Matt Rule said was the defense. He talked a lot about at Big 12 Media Days about how he threw in some guys last year that maybe weren't really ready for that moment, but they're ready now. They've got the experience. It reminds me kind of this Oklahoma defense. These guys, they got beat around a little bit, but they've got the experience. They're better for it, and they've got a pretty favorable schedule hosting OU, Texas, and Iowa State. Their toughest road game is Oklahoma State. I reasonably could think Baylor could finish in 4th in the Big 12 this year.
If you look at any of the games in the past...
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. We've got to go to break. We have run out of time. Y'all have a lot to say, but more to come on Game Day U when we return. Nothing seems like a sure thing in the Big Ten this year. Who will emerge as the conference champion? We'll discuss on the other side of the break. The Big Ten should offer plenty of intrigue. Ohio State is in a season of transition after Urban Meyer stepped down as head coach. The Buckeyes also lost 2 key offensive pieces in Dwayne Haskins and Paris Campbell, but new head coach Ryan Day still has one of the nation's top backs in Mike Weber. Meanwhile, their chief rival, the Michigan Wolverines, are looking to finally get over the hump and claim their first conference title under Jim Harbaugh. However, their schedule is brutal. They'll have to get past Army, Wisconsin, Iowa, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Michigan State. And of course, they close the year with a showdown against the Buckeyes in Ann Arbor. Now, Nebraska is getting a lot of preseason love despite last year's 4-8 campaign. Sophomore quarterback Adrian Martinez has shown flashes of brilliance and could take a huge step forward under the instruction of Scott Frost. Now, Paul Chrysa's Badgers have a Heisman hopeful in Jonathan Taylor, but they'll turn to a relatively inexperienced quarterback in Jack Cohn. If Cohn can take pressure off of Taylor with precise passing, Wisconsin may be a scary team. And as usual, Iowa should bring a terrifying defense and a strong rushing attack. Defensive end A.J. Epinesa may be the front runner for the Benarick Award, and quarterback Nathan Stanley is stable and experienced. This should be a really fun conference.
Really deep conference.
Who's taking the cake at the end? Sule.
So, you mentioned it earlier. I'm really high on the Wisconsin Badgers this year.
Wow.
They've got Jonathan Taylor, who to me is like my favorite to win the Heisman. Maybe not favorite, but he's my personal favorite. I like him a lot. He is the leading rusher. He was the leading rusher in the NCAA last year. He compiled more yards in his freshman and sophomore season than any running back has in the 150-year history of college football. That is not an easy thing to do. No. Last night, they beat Wisconsin. Looked fantastic, beating University of Southern Florida 49-0, with Taylor amassing 135 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and 2 touchdowns through the air as well. I mean, he can carry that load. He's ready to carry that load. You mentioned Jack Cohn. He's a guy who came in when Alex Hornibrook was, let's just say Alex Hornibrook, yeah, exactly. Last year, came in to help them beat Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl. Yeah. Last night went through for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 19 of 26. He's not the guy. Like, Taylor is the guy for that team. He just has to get out of the way. It's really what the thing is. And the Wisconsin Badgers are going to be great on defense. And here's the thing. They don't even have to be perfect to win the Big Ten. Their conference, the Big Ten West, is a joke this year. I mean, you mentioned Nebraska, but come on. They won 4 games last year. 4 games. I don't understand. Like, the national media is so high on Nebraska, and I'm like, sure, like, the name brand is great, but they won 4 They didn't even go to a bowl game. Like, I don't understand why everyone's like all of a sudden like high on Nebraska to win to get to the Big Ten championship this year. I'm definitely on the other side of that. I think Nebraska's crazy overrated. Yeah. We're all going to be laughing at the fact that they were ranked in the first preseason poll.
Yeah.
The only other challenger to Wisconsin in that conference is Iowa, and Iowa, while they are a good team, you mentioned them being really good defensively. They're a team that I don't like. Nothing really about their team like gets me excited. Like they lost two of their best two top tight ends. They you can't really name a player on that offense. And like while the Big Ten's not based around their offense, that's what I think makes Wisconsin unique this year. They have a team that has both. Like Jonathan Taylor brings that run game that is going to make or break you in the Big Ten. They have Jack Cohn, and then they have a 4-star quarterback waiting in the wings in Graham Mertz, who was the number 3 quarterback in last year's recruiting class. Like they have a lot of options at Wisconsin this year that a lot of people don't have throughout the Big Ten.
Yeah, this team will go as far as Jonathan Taylor will take them. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. This Big Ten conference is ridiculously loaded. It's so tough.
Deep.
It's so tough to be able to get out of the Big Ten at the end of the season and name yourself champions of that conference. It's tough. But I'm going to have to go with Ohio State. I know they've got a lot of turnover within the team. Urban Meyer stepping down is a big drop-off, but I really do like Wisconsin. I think they're going to be a strong second. But Ohio State's Ohio State for a reason. You know, they constantly recruit top 10, top 15, top 20 recruiting classes. So I don't think they'll really lose that much of a step. They've got a new quarterback in Justin Fields, who is amazing. He looks like Cam Newton. He looks like he could step on the other side of the field and play linebacker and be just looks like.
Hot take.
Okay. All right. You got to do comparisons. You got to do what you got to do.
I'm not talking about talent or skill. I'm just talking about the athletic frame he's got.
All right.
He could line up a defensive end and be just fine.
Yeah.
Guy's huge. They've got. Unfortunately, they did lose 3 receivers. They lost Paris Campbell, Dennis Dixon, and Terry McLaurin. All guys who are amazing skill guys. It's very hard to replace those guys. But guys like Chris Olave on the receiver side of the ball, who played in the bowl game, got 2 touchdowns, had an excellent game, showed he's got a promising future. On the defensive side of the ball, they've got Damon Arnett, who's an excellent lockdown man corner. So, I mean, they've still got the skill guys to provide depth throughout the season when they need it. So I think they won't lose a beat. They'll go ahead and win the Big Ten championship, although it will be tough. Michigan, they've always got tough games. There's so many teams. Like Penn State, I'd compare them to Iowa State of the Big 12.
Yeah,
James Franklin's always going to have those guys ready to play. Anytime you go out to Penn State and State College, you're gonna play a heck of a game. So it's going to be tough. I'm excited to see how that conference unfolds, but I got Ohio State walking out at the end of the
They're
season.
kind of the same argument that we have with Oklahoma. Like, that team is going to be so talented that it's hard to see them being dethroned, but I agree with you. The Big Ten's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think one thing, I love Justin Fields. If you watch QB1 on Netflix, you become a big fan of Justin Fields.
Yeah.
My only concern is that, obviously, transferred in from Georgia, he never got that big game experience, that big-time experience. What are you going to do when there's 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you got to run that ball down the field and score the game-winning touchdown? You know, and they've got a few tricky road games this year. You know, they play at Nebraska. They do.
Sure.
But they've got a few tricky games in there as well. You know, at Indiana, sometimes a sneaky team causes some problems. Last time they played there. At Northwestern with Hunter Johnson coming back. Not coming back, the 5-star transfer quarterback. And then obviously at Michigan the last game of the year. And it's funny we bring out Michigan because I'm going to have to go all in on this one. So I will go all in and I'm going to say Michigan is going to win the Big Ten. I think this is the year Jim Harbaugh and the team get it done. And I've got a few reasons why. First of all, I'm a fan of Shea Patterson. I've been a fan of Shea Patterson since he's been at Ole Miss. He was a little on and off last year, but still finished with a very efficient stat sheet. Kind of reminds me of an Alex Smith kind of quarterback. He finished with 22 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. And he can run the ball a little as well. The loss of Chris Evans at running back hurts due to an academic suspension, especially after Cron Higdon went pro. So that's a little unstable, but they've also got a big 4-star running back, Zach Charbonnet, just waiting in the ranks. And then you've got that big defense, Jim Harbaugh-led defense. Again, a little bit of overturn, losing Devin Bush, losing Rashawn Gary to the NFL. But they're also returning 5 of their top 8 tacklers, I believe, at the spot. Yeah, 4 out of the 5 in the secondary. And they've got a pretty good schedule if you look at it. They travel to Wisconsin and Penn State, which is a tough game. But they host Iowa, who's ranked. They host another ranked team in Notre Dame. Michigan State is going to be ranked, and then Ohio State at the end of the year. I think they've got to put up or shut up. Jim Harbaugh has been saying for 4 years that Michigan is coming back.
Yeah.
He still hasn't beat Ohio State yet. I think they beat Ohio State this year, and I think this year they take the Big Ten.
Okay, you sold completely on Shea Patterson?
It seems like you're pretty all in.
If I'm gonna have to, yeah, let's do it. Why not? I got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I think somebody in the studio agrees with you, but yeah, I don't know. I've always been watching Shea Patterson and have never thought like that's the guy that's gonna lead them to victory.
But he's also he doesn't have to be the gunslinger or anything. He's got arguably one of the best wide receiver cores the duos in the country.
Yeah.
And Donovan Peoples-Jones and Nico Collins, both guys got at least 600 yards last year and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Peoples-Jones is a dynamic returner. I don't think he needs to be the big guy. I don't know if there's a one big guy on this team. There's just a lot of really solid players, and Jim Harbaugh can put those units together and put together a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the khaki pants got to get the victory. Like, at this point, like you said put up or shut up. Like, if you're going to wear khaki pants on the sidelines every single year, then you need to beat Ohio State. Like, that's just how it works. Like,
that's just the rule.
Like, it has been long enough. And at some point with a big name brand like Michigan, if you can't, like, if Oklahoma lost to Texas for 4 straight years, there would be turmoil.
Right.
There would be people calling for blood in the streets of Norman. Like, I can't imagine that Jim Harbaugh is unaware of the fact that people in Ann Arbor are not going to be happy if he loses for 5 straight years.
Yeah.
And especially like
the way last year went.
Exactly.
They got
creamed.
They got embarrassed last year.
And like they come in the season ranked number 7 in the country. There's going to be a lot of hype, and with how much there's no more Urban Meyer. There's no more Dwayne Haskins. Like, this is when Ohio State is going to be their most vulnerable. So it'll be interesting to see if Ohio State can live up to the bill that they have the past few years. But if Michigan can kind of call them on their bluff, like can Michigan finally get over that hump?
Yeah, either way, there's a lot of talent in this conference. You talked about Jonathan Taylor earlier. How about Rondale Moore, too, from Purdue, the sophomore now, who blew up as a freshman, over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. He can return the ball. He can catch out of the backfield. He can make those quick runs, the sweep runs, and he's an electric weapon. So Purdue can sneak in there a little bit as well. But this is just a deep conference.
It really
very
is.
deep.
It's those games like Northwestern, things like that you don't really expect to be tough games. You kind of look on your schedule and don't see like a ranked opponent, so you're like, oh, they'll be all right. But games against Northwestern, Penn State, Iowa, like Iowa's never got a premier guy they always go to, but they've got such a stable team, and Big Ten football is so nitty gritty. Yeah, it's tough. To get to a Big Ten season is hard.
And Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, certified football guy, certified. He's going to get his players ready to play too. They've got some talent on that team. There's just a lot of talent in this conference. There's no other way to describe it, really.
Yeah. I mean, we've mentioned it before, but Penn State is a team that no one is talking about. I mean, they're the 15th ranked team in the country, and they've gotten absolutely no love. And
I think they're okay with that, though. I think
they're
fine with that.
Exactly. But
they're used to having guys like Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley, these attention grabbers.
Right.
Now they're under the radar,
So it'll be interesting to see if they can use that under the radar to really come up and surprise these teams. Because I think if Penn State can put it together, like the Big Ten, while it is competitive, is wide open. Like I could see Penn State taking that crown. I could see Michigan. I could see obviously I see Wisconsin. But there's a world where you see Iowa in a perfect world. Like it could go to a lot of different teams, which is exciting to see. Like, it's at least exciting to watch.
Big Ten's in a good place right now.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's really it for now, but we've got plenty more when we come back. We're going to be giving our college football predictions. I'm excited to hear what y'all have got to say. A lot of hot takes already when we return. Welcome back. We're going to be talking some college football predictions now. We've touched on Big 12. We've touched on Big 10. Let's go. I mean, you look ready.
All right. I mean, I think we're all pretty set on Clemson being in this year. I have them as my #1 team. They're an electric squad. Like, there's no reason for me to believe that with the ACC being as weak as it is, that anyone besides Clemson's going to emerge. The only team that I could see even like remotely getting close to beating them is Syracuse. Like, they're the only ones that giving them problems. Yeah, I mean A&M, but even the one loss would not, I don't think, be detrimental to Clemson's bid. Clemson has 2 losses in conference in the past 4 years. 2. Like that. Like they're an incredible football team. Like, there is no doubt that they're a team that is, like, they won the national championship last year. They bring back Trevor Lawrence. They bring back a lot of those guys in the defense. Like, they're an incredible football team. But they are my clear #1 favorite to make the college football playoff. In my #2 spot, I have Georgia, which I think is a bit of a hot take over Alabama, but I'll get to Alabama in a second. I see Georgia, again, they're in a relatively easy side of the SEC. I mean, the SEC East, isn't a cakewalk, but it's definitely not going to be difficult for a team of Georgia's caliber. Jake Fromm's coming back.
Another QB1 guy.
Another QB1 guy, exactly. And they bring back a lot of that running back stable other than Holyfield. Like, they are going to have a solid team, and I don't really see, I mean, the biggest challenger to them this year was supposed to be Florida, and Florida looked like garbage. They looked terrible. So, like, I don't see anyone really challenging Georgia. And I see them making the SEC championship and then winning it over Alabama, who I still have as my third team in the college football playoff.
Interesting.
I mean, the script has been written before. The SEC champion makes it every year, unquestionably. They could have 4 losses. The college football playoff committee wouldn't care.
Yeah.
So the SEC champion is going to make it, and I think that game is going to be Georgia-Alabama. And then even if Bama loses, they get in. They've done it before.
As the 3 seed.
As the 3 seed over a 4 seed Washington. And that is definitely the hot take you were mentioning earlier. Washington as my 4 seed.
Not Wisconsin?
Not Wisconsin. I understand the spiciness of that take, and let me defend it real quick. I think the Pac-12 this year is poised to break their 3-year drought of being in the college football playoff, and here's why. They have 5 ranked teams. There's going to be a lot of respect for the Pac. There clearly already has been a lot of respect for the Pac-12. They're going to get a lot of people, a lot of hype this year, and I picked Washington because I think their schedule is favorable. They host Oregon, Utah, and Washington State, which are arguably their hardest games. They have to go to Stanford, but they play well at home. The Apple Cup is at Washington this year. So I'm not really set on Washington per se, but I think they have the best chance to emerge. But what I do believe is insert Pac-12 team as the 4th spot. I think the Pac-12 finally gets in this year. Like we said, the Big Ten is up for grabs, and I think they're going to beat each other up. And the hot take here is that I don't have Oklahoma in. I don't have a Big 12 team in. I do still, like we mentioned earlier, I still have Oklahoma winning the Big 12, but I think Oklahoma is going to take some shots in a transition year. We're not going to be able to rely on our offense to bail us out like we have in the last 3 years. So I have the Pac-12 champion in over what I believe to be a 2-loss Oklahoma.
Ooh.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of representation within the college football playoff, but I'm going to start with Clemson. I got Clemson at number 1. It's hard to say against that because they've got such a reestablished team. They've got Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, T. Higgins. They've got guys that are returning. Their defensive line, it seems like they lose 3 guys to the league and reload another number 1
never-ending pool.
Xavier Thomas is scary. He kind of reminds me of Ronnie Perkins. He's a guy that looks like he could play tight end, but he's playing defensive end and he's quick off the ball. Second, I'm going to have to go with Alabama. That's another team that brings back a full squad that just took them to the national championship. They don't really lose a beat. They lose Damian Harris, but they've got Tua. I mean, need I say more?
Right.
They've got Najee Harris. It's Alabama. They've got Nick Saban. They're going to be ready to play, and they're going to be ready late in the season. Third, I'm going to have to go with Oregon.
Okay, so you're following my Pac-12 champion take? Okay.
No, we talked about this yesterday, though. I do agree. I think throughout the Pac-12 schedule, they typically haven't gotten much love because it's been seen as a conference not being strong enough. But now they've got 5 ranked teams. Although preseason rankings don't really mean much, Nebraska is ranked for some reason.
For some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think they'll make it. I think Oregon has got a team and Justin Herbert, a quarterback who everybody wants to see play. Everybody wants to see Justin Herbert do well. He's a Heisman favorite. I think at the end of the day, college football playoff comes down to what the people want to see, and people want to see Justin Herbert play and maybe end up in New York at the end of the season. So fourth, I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma. Everybody wants to see Jalen versus Tua.
Yes.
I think if we lose a game, maybe 2, I still think we find our way to slide in there. I think this is one of those years we do lose to Oklahoma State late in the season, but I still think we end up finding our way in the college football playoff. And, I mean, we've already talked about our team and the reasons I think it will be strong late in the season, but I think I have Oklahoma, sliding in at 4th.
Yeah, generally teams who lose late in the season end up that's their shot. They kind of lose their shot. So if Oklahoma manages to lose to Oklahoma State and then kind of bounce back and get back in that playoff, that's definitely a win for them. I'll breeze through my picks. A lot of the stuff has already been touched on. I got Clemson number 1. They're the consensus best team in the country. Trevor Lawrence is the best returning player in college football. Travis Etienne's a home run hitter. Xavier Thomas, Dabo Sweeney, all the names. They've got all the talent in the world.
Scary.
They've got an easy schedule. They're going to cruise to the playoff. I'm not worried about that. Alabama at number 2. Tua. Need I say more?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You forgot to mention the best wide receiving core in college football.
Jerry Jeudy.
Jerry Jeudy is arguably a better NFL prospect than Tua is.
Yeah.
You know, Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, those are both guys that could become some of the early draft round picks.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see who they fill in at tight end now that Irv Smith is gone, but like I said, on the defensive end, they just keep reloading. The Dylan Moses injury hurts, but they just keep reloading. I've got Oklahoma at number 3. I think that this year may be very similar to last year where they lose kind of one of those games early on, maybe a Baylor, maybe a Texas again in the Cotton Bowl, and then just run the table, breeze through the Big 12 championship and get into the playoff. And then last, if I'm gonna go all in on this take, I might as well go all in. I'm gonna go Michigan at number 4.
Here they are again.
I'm riding the take. I'm just riding the wave. I'm gonna go Michigan at number 4. I just really
get hotter.
Well, the sun is starting to come up.
Yeah.
No, I just think Michigan's schedule is very favorable. You know, Wisconsin isn't exactly a very tough road atmosphere.
Yeah.
And Penn State's going to be a tough one. The talent isn't quite there. Their schedule is very favorable. I think they've got a lot of really solid guys all around the lineup. There isn't one particular weakness that may haunt them or torture them towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I just think that they will find a way. I think Jim Harbaugh is done listening to the critics. I think the entire city of Ann Arbor is done listening to the critics. And I've got the Wolverines, maize and blue, rocking that number 4 seed.
Wow.
I mean, if you're gonna push all your chips in, man, you got to push all your chips in. I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that
Go
you're
big or
going.
go home.
Yeah. I wasn't willing to go there with Wisconsin, but I respect your game, man.
Y'all have some really hot takes.
Yeah.
Out of the 4,
we work in a hot take industry.
You got to bring the hot takes. It's the first show of the season.
But out of the 4 y'all picked, if you had to go to the championship, who do you see on each sideline?
Alabama and Clemson.
Yeah.
As of right now, until I see a team that I can confidently say is better than Alabama or Clemson, it's going to be Alabama, Clemson round 4.
I mean, history repeats itself. I would, if maybe one of them was coming off a year where they're replacing a quarterback, but neither of them are. Like the leadership of that team is the same. I have to agree with Sam here. Like the only way I see really, I mean, Clemson to me is a shoo-in. Like Clemson could probably just pack it in at this point. And they are that much better than everyone in the ACC. And
I don't even think Clemson has started practice yet. Wait until like week 6, week 7.
They did start practice. They beat the heck out of Georgia Tech a couple days ago, and it wasn't even close. Like that was their.
They did struggle a little bit in that game, though. Trevor Lawrence threw 2 interceptions.
Trevor Lawrence
their
did
offense
look a little
was
rusty.
Yeah, their offense was sputtering a little
Georgia
bit.
Tech is known for having a pretty solid pass defense, especially with the players that were returning from last year.
Yeah.
But the run game had their way with them. So that's the thing about Clemson is if you're able to even stifle their passing offense a little bit, here comes the rushing attack, and vice versa. They're just so hard to stop.
But I mean, you can give Trevor Lawrence a pass because it's practice. Like I said, like they're starting practice now. Like the ACC is just practice for the college football playoff for them at this point.
Yeah.
The only, I see Georgia. Like I said, I have them beating Alabama in the SEC championship. And so I see them as a threat to Bama because of how deep they are. They've gotten a top 5 recruiting class this year coming in. Jake Fromm is obviously a guy that has emerged as a leader in that Georgia offense. Established himself as a stalwart in that Georgia team. The only really conceivable way that if I could see them beating Bama back-to-back, like because the way that I have it set up, they'd have to play them 2 times in a row, which beating Saban 2 times in a row is unheard of.
That's probably the hardest thing to do in college football.
I have to agree. The only thing I could see is Tua has had injury problems in the past. And like you both hit on it, like Tua is an incredible talent, will be an NFL prospect, a Heisman hopeful. Like I mean, Kyler Murray had to put up historic numbers to take the Heisman away from him last year.
Yeah, and it was still close.
It was still very close.
Yeah, it was still a ridiculously close race.
And so the only way I really see Bama taking a step back with the amount of talent that they have is if Tua continues to have injury problems, because they don't have Jalen Hurts now. We do.
Yeah.
So like, who is that backup that if Tua breaks? Like I mean, he had an ankle injuries all year. Like if he has those problems again, who's the guy? Like I mean, and Alabama historically has not had great quarterback play. For as good as they've been in the dynasty that Saban has built, Tua is the best guy by far. The next best up was Jalen, and now he's gone. And then after that, like, do they have a Greg McElroy in the wings? And does that get you excited if you're Alabama?
Matt Jones.
I think that's one of the things that Alabama has proven that they don't really need, though. They don't need stellar quarterback play to go win out national championships. They've done it just fine in the past without it.
That's the thing is they've done just fine in the past, but they've got it now.
Yeah.
Like, why not just go all in on this one? Like you think Alabama should be better than they ever have been because they've got that same level of talent, and they got arguably the best quarterback in the country, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. And, I mean, I'm going to have to agree with you both. You got to see Clemson and Alabama seeing each other on the sidelines at the end of the season. It's like not betting on Kentucky a few years back in that March Madness tournament when they literally hadn't lost a game. Like, they did end up losing. But everybody still bet on them to win.
Sure.
You know, I'm still betting on Clemson and Alabama to be there. Will they be there? I don't know. Only time will tell. But it's impossible to bet against them. I mean, Clemson, you just look at their roster. Like you said, you go to Trevor Lawrence, he has a bad game. Then you look at Travis Etienne, who looks like Alvin Kamara, who can do everything out the backfield. So, like, they've just got so many facets of their game that they can rely on when things get tough. It's just hard not to see them at the end of the season in the national championship game.
And you and I both had a Pac-12 champion in that thing. And while I have the Pac-12 champion getting in, I see them as more of a Notre Dame of last year. Like, they're just going to be the stepping stone for Clemson. Like, the Pac-12, while
the polished game.
Like,
underdogs,
yeah, just to look pretty, like they got in. Congrats, you made it. Like, they're the Pac-12 champion. While they'll be happy to be there at that point. Like, I don't think the Pac-12 and prove me wrong. Like, if Oregon and Justin Herbert really tend to click, or if Washington makes it the way I predict, like, they could give problems, but I don't think they're going to be. I wouldn't put money down to have them being in the game, or definitely not winning the college football playoff.
My money right now, it's Alabama and Clemson, and then everything else.
Yeah.
That's where my money's at. I'm making smart bets out here.
Yeah.
I know what happened last season. I lost
we're
too
college
much
students.
money.
You can't throw our money
Too
around.
much money lost. I'm making smart bets this year.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of the break, back to the studio we go, where Brooke Mursky and the studio crew will tackle 3 of the hottest topics in college football. 3 and Out is next. You're watching Game Day U.
Welcome back to Game Day U. We are back in the studio going for our 3 and Out segment, where our analysts will answer 3 questions about none other than college football. Now let's take a look at the SEC. Obviously, Alabama are far and away 2 of the most talented teams, but who do you guys think is most likely to emerge as a challenge to the Bulldogs and the Tide?
Well, for me, it's going to be the Florida Gators.
Okay.
Now, for me, there's one reason, and for my first reason, it's because the continuity on the sideline. Dan Mullen, arguably one of the best coaches in college football, wins everywhere he goes, and that's because he has a really good quarterback and a really good offense. He's got Felipe Franks back in his program again, a quarterback who can throw it, he can run it as well. They've also got LaMichael Pirine at running back, and Kadarius Toney, there he is right there. Also Van Jefferson at wide receiver. 2 deadly threats on the offense. There's Kadarius Toney right now, takes it for 66 yards against Miami last week. And then, of course, another reason Florida's been so good, they found success early in the Mullen era, is because of their stingy defense. You're seeing right now from that Peach Bowl, that's a pick interception right there. It's going to go back to the house for a pick 6. Florida's had a very good defense. They forced 26 turnovers alone last season. Todd Grantham back as the defensive coordinator. I think that they have the potential to be a very good top unit again. Florida has the potential to be very good this year. I think they could win the SEC East, possibly even beating the Georgia Bulldogs.
Ooh. Okay, Cal, I like it. Let's keep it
that's
going,
a hot
Shannon.
take. That's a hot take. I'm going to have to go with, it is. I'm going to have to go with LSU. LSU has 9 returning starters for their defense and 8 on the offense. I really think that they are just a solid team all around. They're in Grant Delpit, I feel like, is the core of the defense as returning players. He makes plays all over the field. He's reliable, he's very versatile, and he's a player that you can just count on. I really think that their defense is going to be better this season because of Grant Delpit. He just knows where the ball is going to end up all the time. I mean, look at that. This team is insane. I also think they have one of the strongest defenses because of linebacker Jacob Phillips, who's just insane. He's a beast. He can knock anybody over, and he's hungry for the ball. And we can't forget about their quarterback, Joe Burrow, who's a steady signal caller. He's just a leader on the field, especially as a senior, and he knows how to compete. And prior to playing for Ohio State, he does know how to compete for the big leagues and knows what a natty championship is all about. And I mean, how could you not love Coach O? Everybody loves him. He knows how to lead a team. And I don't know, I feel like LSU can really take it home. Yeah, I don't know. I think LSU has like a huge hit, especially with good safeties and a good defense, and they're just a strong team all around. So I don't know, guys. I feel like LSU can really challenge the Tide and
last year they got
Bulldogs.
that big win over Georgia. That game was in Baton Rouge. They beat them by 20 points. A pretty good Georgia team that a lot of people had going really far. Of course, for me, it's going to have to come down to the Alabama game. LSU, it's a top game. Everyone puts national attention on it every year, but Alabama has just destroyed LSU. LSU hasn't won since 2011. It really hasn't been close in that many games, even since Coach O's taken over. You really don't see that much of a contest, really. So I think Alabama, until they can go and knock off the top guys in the SEC, which would be Alabama, I just can't take LSU as
Way to shut her down. All right, James, what do you think?
I'm not even going to bother.
I'm
not even going to bother.
Well, we got the Gators and we got the Tigers. And you know what, guys? I agree.
Okay.
I'm going with the Tigers.
Okay.
But not LSU. I'm talking about the Auburn Tigers. That's right, guys. The thorn in the side and the rival of Alabama is who I'm going with. And they've got a stout defense this year, along with a ton of depth to back it up. Derek Brown on that defensive line, he's a scary, scary man out there. And their secondary is returning 4 starters. Now, coming out of the backfield here, we got Jatarvius Whitlow. Look at that. Catches the ball on the run, breaks upfield. That breakaway speed is going to be nasty. This man tallied up 787 yards last year, averaging 5.2 yards a carry, and he had 6 touchdowns with it. Look at this vision that he has. He finds the hole, breaks through, and gets in there. I think he's going to be just a problem to deal with. And in the backfield, Bo Nix, 5-star recruit, going to be the starting quarterback for them as well. I just think he's going to come out here. They're going to be a good challenge. They've got Alabama and Georgia at home. I think they're set. I think they slept on the Tigers, and it's coming out.
You know, I agree with you. I do. I agree with Auburn. I think that they're going to do really well.
Wow.
We'll talk about them a little bit later.
Okay,
but
yeah.
And old Bo Nix.
Let's move on to, we've got several impact players in new uniforms this season. None whom of least is Jalen Hurts. But beyond Hurts, who's one transfer that you guys have your eye on?
Well, one of the guys I'm talking about is a guy you probably haven't even paid that much attention to. It's actually Ben Hicks. He's a transfer from SMU. Now he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now get this stat. In 2018, Arkansas quarterbacks threw 18 interceptions to only 16 touchdowns. That's right. Arkansas quarterbacks threw more picks than they did touchdowns. So right here, Ben Hicks comes in. He's the all-time leading passer, and at SMU also led the team at total offensive touchdown passes all time. Now he's reunited with his former head coach, Ben Hicks, in 2017. Chad Morris was the head coach at SMU. Now they're going to be reunited again, also with offensive coordinator Joe Craddock. And in that 2017 campaign, Hicks threw for nearly 3,600 yards and threw 33 touchdowns. He's going to have some weapons at Arkansas. C.J. O'Grady, a senior tight end at Arkansas, was second in receiving yards last year. And I'm going to be confident and go out and say that Arkansas is going to go bowling, especially with a soft schedule early on in the season. Arkansas is going bowling. They're going to knock off Ole Miss in week 2, and I think they play a couple FCS teams somewhere in there. Arkansas has a potential to at least get to 6-6, so I'm confident in the Razorbacks, and I'm confident in Ben Hicks to be reunited with his old head coach.
All right, nice, Cal. Let's hear you, Shannon.
Okay, so I mentioned Ohio State quarterbacks earlier, and I'm going to have to go with new Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields. I really think that Justin Fields just hasn't had a chance to prove himself. He has a strong arm and can run, I just think that he's a dual threat all over the field. And I say that I don't think he's gotten an opportunity because he did play under Fromm, who had just previously beaten Oklahoma as Fields was coming onto the team, and Fields still competed for that top spot. Look at him run. He's just so good. He's all around a good player. He has big shoes to fill with Haskins being gone. And I just don't think that he's going to fall under the pressure because he's always been a spotlight type of guy. I don't think that he's going to let anybody down, especially being in his second year as a sophomore. I'm excited to see Jeff Fields play with Ohio State, and I just think that he can lead him pretty far, especially with under new head coach Ryan Day taking over for Urban Myers. I think that duo is just going to be phenomenal. So yeah,
okay.
I'm anxious. It's going to be pretty good.
I think it was important for Fields to find an offense that he was going to find a rhythm with. Luckily, it's with my Uncle Ryan, so I think that he's going to have a really good shot to thrive, especially with J.K. Dobbins. I see Ohio State probably running a really run-heavy offense. Obviously, they'll mix in some passes, but I think that he should complement that offense pretty well.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree. I do.
James, what transfer is on your radar?
I got to go with Kelly Bryant, the former Clemson quarterback who's now going to play in Missouri. Now, looking at it, Trevor Lawrence did replace him, but this man was a beast in the backfield. He won 6 out of the 7 ranked games he played against opponents, and he led Clemson to the college football playoff with over 3,500 yards. Now, looking at the team he's going to, it's going to be a 36.6 average point per game team in Missouri. And besides Alabama, in 2017, Bryant looked elite in the quarterback position. He had 24 touchdowns, only 6 picks, and for reference, Trevor Lawrence, he had 25 touchdowns and 4 picks this last season. I think on the ground he had roughly 660 yards, so he's going to be a player to throw the ball and the running ball. And looking at it, Missouri, after they got banned from bowl season, had no players transfer. They're returning 3 linemen, 2 receivers, and the running back. So looking at it, I think that Kelly Bryant is going to fit into that system perfectly, and I think he's going to go out there and he's going to make some noise playing in that SEC now.
Okay. Well, in our 3 and Out segment, we had question 1, question 2. Let's move it on over to question 3. Ever since the introduction of the college football playoff, we haven't really seen a team come out of nowhere to claim a spot on the field. So let's get creative here. If you guys really could see it happen, what team do you see on the field?
Well, I just talked about LSU needing to beat Alabama to make a statement. Well, I think that's going to happen this year. LSU is my college football sleeper team this year. Now, it's only happened twice. It's only happened twice, a team from the same, or 2 teams rather, from the same conference getting into the playoff. I think it has the potential to happen again this year. Now, Joe Burrow is back for an LSU team that returns 17 starters, including 8 on the offense, Burrow, and of course his wide receiver Jefferson, and then they return 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. But the strength of this team is going to be on the defense. They've got one of the best defensive coordinators probably that money can buy, literally. Dave Aranda makes more than most head coaches. He's going to be back on the sidelines as well. And then they brought in Joe Brady from the New Orleans Saints. He'll be their new passing game coordinator. So this Ed Orgeron, you can see he's really wanting to make an emphasis on his offense, bringing in these new coordinators, these new coaches. We're going to see how LSU looks in week 2. They've got a high-profile matchup with the Texas Longhorns. I'm going to go ahead and say that LSU is going to go into Austin. I think they do beat Texas, beat them. I think it'll be pretty competitive, but I think LSU wins that game. And I'm going to go with LSU. They probably will stumble at least once. It could be to Alabama. Could be, but I think an 11-1 LSU could still have the potential to make the playoff.
Okay,
so
like to see it, Cal.
Wake
don't
up.
sleep. Shannon, who's your deep sleeper?
Okay, don't hate on it. I'm going to say Auburn. I think that Auburn has a stacked defense that can lead them to the college football playoff, and led by Derek Brown, Nick Cohen, Marlon Davidson, all phenomenal leaders who know exactly what they want. They're strong, they're big, they're hungry, and they know how to compete. I'm excited to see them get out there and play, and especially on the other side, wide receiver Anthony Schwartz is one of the fastest in college football. He'll be coming up here. He's a dangerous player, and I think that he's just a rock to the receivers. He knows what he's doing. He's fast, and he wants the ball. Not only is Anthony Schwartz really good, but the rest of the O-line is excited and ready to compete as well. They know what they want, and they're just ready to play. And so I know this isn't Bo Nix, but Cam Newton up here is a great comparison to the new freshman quarterback. I think that Bo Nix is ready both mentally and physically for this season. Although he is a freshman, I think that he's going to do a great job because he has a strong arm and because he can make throws at the next level. I think that he could really provide a spark for the team that they didn't have last season. So I know this is Cam Newton, but I think Cam Newton, Bo Nix are comparable for sure. So I don't know. I would look out for Auburn. Don't hate on them because I think that they're a strong team.
Okay, you're convincing. Just a little convincing, but
I'm
I
not.
don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm 100%
Okay, just
there.
wait, just wait.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
Their
lot.
defense is so good. You just
It's a lot of stock in a true
We'll see.
freshman quarterback.
We'll just have
and
to see.
Anthony Schwartz is a beast.
Gus
Well-
Malzahn's probably going to be lucky to make it to the end of the
James.
season. But we'll see.
Okay,
What do you
all right.
Well, you know, I'm seeing a theme here of a lot of big cats for the mascots for all these teams, and I'm sticking with it. I'm going with the Nittany Lions, Penn State this year. In the backfield, they've got Ricky Slade, who's going to be a sophomore. Oh, man, this guy is scary. He looks like Saquon Barkley reincarnated. He's going to be an X factor out there, averaging 5.7 yards a carry. He's going to be coming into his own out on the field. Not to mention, looking at it, their defense is coming back experienced, and they're going to be a nightmare out there, both for the passing game and for the running game. They got Micah Parsons, who's going to be terrifying to play against with that pass rush, and they got weapons like KJ Hamler, and it's just going to be a good year. Sean Clifford, he's going to be a young quarterback out there, but hey, don't fall asleep on him. Big cats sneak up on you.
Okay, James.
Bold.
Well, we still got a whole day to wait before the Sooners take their opener, but when we come back, Shiloh Sellers and the gang have their preview predictions, plus Colin Kennedy of 247 Sports drops by. This is Game Day U. We're in this Game Day U. The Sooners are heavy favorites tomorrow night against Houston, but they certainly won't be taking the Cougars lightly. After all, back in 2016, when these two teams last squared off,
it should be
OU
booked,
ended up
and
on
then
the
we're
wrong
going to
end
hit the book.
of a shocking 33-23 upset. With that in mind, our own Parker Thune decided to get a detailed scouting report from a special guest. Take a look.
What's up, Sooner fans? We're hitting the books, giving you the scouting report on the Houston Cougars as we prepare for tomorrow night's matchup between OU and Houston. Parker Thune alongside Colin Kennedy, proud OU alum and CBS Sports digital contributor. Colin, thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate you. This feels weird, coming back as an alumni. By the way, look at you learning from me, dropping the one-liner real quick. So proud
How
of you,
about it?
youngster.
How about it?
Nah, man, I'm glad you guys have me back for a brief moment. Excited to work with Game Day U once again. But just a brief.
Yes, sir. Well, let's dive right into it. And of course, for Houston, everything starts and stops with the Eric King, the
They were just
threat
saying
quarterback, converted wide receiver, one of the most electrifying offensive weapons in the entire country. Colin, we know Alex Grinch preaches the speed D. How does the speed D contain the guy that might be the fastest man on the field?
In the terms of new Sooners linebacker coach Brian Odom, do you want the sugar-coated answer or you want the real answer?
Or give me the real answer.
You don't. I mean, it's flat out simple. D'Eriq King is uncontainable when you think about just how dynamic and electric he is as a playmaker. One of only 3 FBS players in history to record 35-plus passing touchdowns and 13 rushing touchdowns in a season. On top of that, the guy was #1 in points responsible for, and he missed a few games at the end of last season, if you remember correctly. The bottom line here is you don't contain him. How do you react to him? Because obviously, at some point in this football game, D'Eriq King is going to do something disruptive, and he's going to bring some adversity to the table. How did this Sooner defense react? Because obviously they're still in the transition phase, trying to implement this new system under Alex Grinch, Roy Manning, Brian Odom. And so when something goes wrong, and it will likely be at the hands of D'Eriq King, what does this defense do? Because at the end of the day, it's not how well you can keep D'Eriq King contained, it's how much can you keep him at bay. And that's what the Sooners are tasked with doing on Sunday night.
Now let's talk about Houston and King's arsenal.
Yeah.
Now, which offensive weapon do the Sooners need to take away from King in order to minimize his impact?
Well, I'm not sure there's one specific answer, Parker, to be quite honest. I look at this offense, and you look first at the receiving core, there's 3 guys with track star-like speed. And so when you think about Dana Holgorsen, who is now coaching at Houston, he didn't really like to keen on one specific guy. He had several weapons when you think about David Sills and Gary Jennings at West Virginia. And so I look for Holgorsen to try and utilize his different weapons in unique ways. On top of that, Houston has 2 different senior running backs in the core, but on top of that, they bring in transfer from Texas, Kyle Porter. And Porter was a very good football player in high school, but he didn't do much in Texas, so I look for him to come to this game with a chip on his shoulder. And so what does Porter bring to that running back core? Because if he brings anything at all, you're now looking at 3 different wide receivers and 3 running backs with a whole lot of potential. So I look for them to try and mix and match with all of these different weapons and try and just spread the Sooner defense out. Now, where I think Oklahoma has an advantage to potentially stop that is on the line of scrimmage. And as we know, you win and lose the football game at the line. Houston lost 2 of their top offensive linemen, and I think there's still some shuffling going on there with those pieces. So a lot of people are excited about Oklahoma's defensive line. That could be where they capitalize on a situation, and from there, I think that's the only way that they can really contain all of these different weapons for Houston.
Now let's talk about the defensive side of the football for the Cougars. It's obviously the dawn of the post-Ed Oliver era. Which offensive weapon that the Sooners have is best equipped to exploit the weaknesses that Houston has defensively?
I got to go Trey Sermon. I think Sermon looks real good. I mean, he's in the best physical condition of his entire career. And on top of that, I think he'll get some solid carry numbers, especially because Jalen Hurts obviously making his debut for the Sooners. I don't know that they'll want to put too much on him early on especially, so Sermon to me is a guy that could step out there with a whole new front line on the defense for Houston. Could go right in and just absolutely destroy him, because if you remember correctly, Sermon finishes one of the top Big 12 running backs in terms of yards after contact. Can this Houston Cougar defense get him down? I'm not sure, especially because there are a lot of transfers coming in and still a lot of starters yet to be named. And so Houston at the end of the day is going to have to try and bring down a tank in Trey Sermon, so I'm really excited to see what he does in this game.
Now, last thing for you, Colin.
Yeah.
Obviously, 3 5-star wideouts coming in one of the most impressive classes at the wide receiver position that the collegiate game has ever seen. You got Theo Weiss, Jaden Hazelwood, and Trajan Bridges. Who do you think has the best chance for Oklahoma to make an immediate impact?
In terms of those 3, I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably Trajan Bridges. Now, Theo Weiss kind of had a rough start in camp. Jaden Hazelwood was a little bit banged up, and then he's risen recently. But Bridges has always been this electric playmaker. Bridges will likely be the most consistent contributor, but I'm going to give you a sneaky answer here. Those 3 may not even be the best. I'm thinking it's Austin Stogner, the tight end, coming in as a freshman. Stogner has been absolutely phenomenal all summer long. He has consistently improved, and his size at 6'6", he is just unstoppable. No one can match up with him, and I look for the Sooners to try and play some different positions all along the offense. And to be quite honest, he's a mismatch nightmare. No one on Houston's defense can match up with Austin Stogner, so look for him to have a big game against Houston.
Colin Kennedy, thanks so much for hitting the books with us. Now we send you back out to Shiloh and the team, guys.
It's always good to hear from the wise Colin Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure if y'all can see them, but we got some guests here behind us, just some Sooners doing some walkthroughs. Pretty cool to be here and them doing their
weird.
thing.
It was weird. We were just sitting out, and all of a sudden they come out, and we're like, all right, are they coming to check out the show? Do they want to stand back behind us?
Right.
But yeah,
I think we might sign some autographs for them later.
Oh,
yeah. They're gonna have to wait till after the show, though. Obviously.
Yeah. We gotta get through our final words, our call outs, and our predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do.
Who are you calling out today?
So my call out is Alex Grinch. I have talked about it a lot this show. Like, this is the time. You have to prove that you are good enough to be here. Like, you have a lot of all the eyes are going to be on our defense this year. Alex Grinch, you are my call out. Can you be the guy that we need you to be, that the University of Oklahoma needs you to be to get back to the college football playoff?
We hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
For sure. Lots of pressure, lots of expectations.
My call out is going to be Jalen Hurts. Jalen, you've had a lot of speculation from you coming from Alabama to
I
OU.
think he can hear you. Be careful.
Yeah, honestly, I should keep my voice down. He's like right behind me. But yeah, no, I want you to hear this, Jalen. Jalen, you got a lot of pressure on you. All the media's been looking at you. You haven't, in your past, been the best passer in the world, and a lot of Oklahoma fans think that Lincoln Riley can turn you into the best passer you can be. So let's see it. Let's go out tomorrow night and see it.
I'm just scared that he's just going to start running up the
Right.
stairs.
They're going to come and tackle us.
He's going to come up here and I'll be like, Jalen, I'm calling you out.
All right, I'm gonna go back to the defense for my call out. I'm gonna go with the defensive line. Now, the reason I say the defensive line, first of all, if you look at the depth chart, they're very deep. You look at Neville Gallimore, Jalen Redmond, and Ronnie Perkins are probably going to be those 3 starters on the defensive line, but they've also got guys like LeBron Stokes, Dylan Famatau, Marquise Overton, players that can come off the bench and provide that relief when necessary, and that is crucial to what they need to do tomorrow when it comes to containing D'Eriq King. This is a guy who can pass the ball, but he is even more dangerous with his feet, and as a result, you have to be able to contain him in that pocket so that he doesn't make a ton of big plays or breakouts. So the defensive line is going to be a huge factor in tomorrow's game, and I think personally that they're going to be pretty successful in that regard.
Creed Humphrey, I'm calling you out. I mean,
Also can hear you.
Please be careful.
Oh my God.
Hey, I want him to be a leader. That's the biggest thing. We got so lucky with our offensive line last season. I mean, I think that it's so easy, especially with a Heisman, a first round draft pick, that you can kind of look past that offensive line and just focus on how talented the quarterback is. But at the end of the day, you've got to have a line that can keep the pressure off the pocket. And they did that last season. I think Creed, being the guy who's coming in, he's got to lead these new guys. He's got to be the guy who says, this is how we did it last season, and we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want from him. He's a young guy. He's a sophomore.
He's only 19, 20 years old. It's crazy.
To be in, I mean, look at this place. To be in the Palace, to have that kind of limelight on you, you got to step up. This is a season for him to do that, I think.
Yeah, Coach Beatonbaugh has gone on record saying that he needed him to step up into a more off-the-field leadership role, and it's something that he's done. So Creed's gonna be a bowler.
Yeah,
he is.
I hope so. Calling him out if he is not. Alrighty, time for our final words. Sule.
My final word is prove. I've said it a few times already today. This defense needs to prove that they can be a unit worthy of a college football playoff team, and they have not been in previous years. Jalen Hurts has a lot to prove. This offensive line has a lot to prove. These young 5-star wide receivers, who we surprisingly have not talked about at all this show, have a lot to prove. This team has a lot to prove for a team that is coming off 4 straight Big 12 titles. So I think that they have to prove that they are worthy of being in that dynasty kind of conversation. Like if you go into 5, if you can make 5 straight conference titles, that's dynasty talk right there.
Yeah.
They need to prove that they're worthy of that conversation.
Yeah.
And my final word is going to be alleviate. I think throughout all Oklahoma's career, and not I say Oklahoma's career, but the players currently at Oklahoma throughout their careers, they've proven themselves. Everybody knows they're top dogs. Go alleviate all the doubts that might currently exist within the media, within Sooner fans. Go alleviate any shadow, realm of a doubt that you aren't the top team in this conference and in this nation. Alleviate it.
By the way, before my final word, I think we have a new Madeline Roberts coming up with a very big, very impressive word. That's a word you got to look up in the dictionary if you don't know it. For
Alleviate?
Sure. Alleviate. You know, it's a harder word than you think. I know a lot of people that don't know the word alleviate. I can guarantee you that.
That's fair. That's fair.
My final word's going to be a little simpler. My final word's going to be baseline. And what I mean is this is going to be a baseline performance. Yes, sure, sort of, yeah. This is going to be a baseline performance, more so on the defense than on the offense, because there are kind of some more proven players at the skill positions and on the offensive line. But this is going to be a baseline performance for the defense. Houston is a good offense. This is not going to be an easy game for the Sooner defense by any stretch of the imagination. De'Eric Ward is going to score touchdowns. They're going to put up points. But I think that this will kind of set the expectation for what we can sort of see from the defense. I know the media and the public in general is just going to grossly overstate things and over-exaggerate, but this is just a regular kind of, just to see where we're at right now. This is kind of a baseline game for that team and just to see where they can progress.
My word's going to be unity, new defensive coordinator, just about brand new O-line, new quarterback. I mean, there's just so many new parts to this Sooner team this season. I think this is the time for it all to come together and for them to say, this is who we are, we're stronger, we're getting better, we're improving. I think that just all the work they've done defensively, it needs to meet that offense that OU is just known for. They need, in order to get to the college playoffs, they've got to have both. And I think that this is the year for them to really show that they've got it.
I agree. They can't play the blame game within the team. So
All right, quick pick and score. Who do you got?
OU winning 45-34.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an offensive show out for OU. I'm going to go 45-14.
41-24 Oklahoma.
I'm close with you. OU 42-16 for me.
Okay.
That'll be it for us right now. Whenever we come back, we're going to be in the studio, actually, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Game Day U. We're here in the studio, and we're going to go into our Pick'em segment where we'll talk to the analysts about different games, and they'll get to choose what they think. Well, all right, let's go right up. Northwestern is going up against Stanford. Let's see. Let's roll some video. Let's
Big
see
Ten
it.
versus Pac-12.
All right, KJ Costello and the Cardinal always seem to be one step away from the college football playoff discussion. They'll look to make a statement right off the bat here in 2019. For Northwestern, their heir apparent at quarterback is Clemson transfer Hunter Johnson, and they bring back some key defenders, including star linebacker Patty Fisher. Stanford's a slight favorite, but the Wildcats won all 5 true road games they played last year. Cal, what do you make of this one?
I like Northwestern. I think it's a team. They started off kind of slow last year, 1-3, but they finished really strong. They even made it to the Big Ten championship game. They didn't win, obviously. Ohio State did, but they did go on to win their bowl game. I like Northwestern to go to California in Stanford and knock off the Stanford Cardinal. So there you go, Northwestern. I think it'll be a defensive showdown. Could be a really close, kind of probably low 20s, maybe a 24-23 game, but I'll take the Wildcats of Northwestern.
You know, I'm going to have to counter that. I'm going to go with Stanford. I just think that their defensive line is just fantastic. And I think that they will step up. And if they do, like they have in years past, and if they do, I think that'll determine their success for the rest of the season. And, you know, in the preseason game, Stanford finished third in the Pac-12, while Northwestern finished 9th in the Big Ten. So I think that Stanford has a better advantage. And also, I am from Chicago, home of Northwestern, and I still think Stanford's going to win.
You're not allowed anymore. That's game over. You're banned.
No, you know, I don't think
Wow.
so. I don't think so. I think I can say that.
All right, we'll see.
Well, guys, for me, did you know, fun fact, the last 21 non-conference games Stanford's played at home, yeah, they've won all of them.
Yeah.
Give me Stanford this time. I think behind KJ Costello, they're going to go in there. Northwestern, I don't think they can do it. Not in California. Not this time.
Wow.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Jacksonville, where Florida State squares off with Boise. Okay, it's a make-or-break year for the Seminoles head coach Willie Taggart. FSU missed bowl season last year for the first time since 1981. James Blackman will start at quarterback after beating out grad transfer Alex Hornibrook, but this offense will revolve around Cam Akers in the backfield. Now for Boise, true freshman Hank Bachmeier is the new starting QB. They return their entire offensive line from a season ago and will be hungry for an upset in their first ever meeting with Florida State. Guys, who wins?
It's going to be an exciting matchup. I think it'll be really fun. Now, this game is supposed to be a neutral site game. It's now in Tallahassee, which means it's kind of an advantage for the Seminoles of Florida State. For me, I'm going to go with Florida State. I think it's a team that's kind of under the radar. Now, they haven't really performed well since they lost that Rose Bowl back to Oregon back in 2014. Obviously, Jimbo Fisher's gone. Willie Taggart trying to pick up the pieces there. I think it starts with a really impressive non-conference win against what's been one of the Group of Five's best teams. I think they knock off the Boise State Broncos today. Florida State starts 1-0.
Okay.
You know, I hate to agree with you, but I have to. I'm going to go with Florida State, too. They're just loaded with talent. That team is insane. And I know they had a little bit of a fluke year last year, but I think they can bounce back and really do well. They have a great matchup against Boise State, as you said. And Florida is like the top state for best recruits, and they always get great players on the team. So I really think that they can show out this year and beat Boise State.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I got to go with Florida State, too. I mean, it's a game. You don't want to start out your season losing to Boise State. They got James Blackman coming in. He threw for 421 yards in his game against NC State. And honestly, guys, they got Akers in the backfield, but I just think it's got to be Florida State this time. They can't lose this beginning of the season game. They want to get on, and they want to go hard this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough start for that Boise State quarterback. True freshman on the road in Tallahassee. That's an intense crowd.
It'll test them for sure. I mean,
yeah, I think
we'll
Noles
see.
win.
Okay, let's move on to our next marquee matchup on our slate. Auburn takes on Oregon. This one should be fun. AT&T Stadium in Arlington plays host. Now, Oregon's heart and soul is their stud signal caller, Justin Hebert, a likely first-round draft pick next year. Auburn's rolling with a true freshman Bo Nix at quarterback, advantage to the Ducks. However, Gus Malzahn's team has an elite D-line loaded with NFL talent, while Oregon's defense allowed nearly 400 yards of offense per game last year. That's an advantage, Tigers. Guys, at the end of the day, who comes out on top here now?
Well, I think it's really a tale of two teams. You're going to have a really good defensive line with Auburn versus a very good offensive line at Oregon. It's also going to be a quarterback issue. Bo Nix, the starting quarterback at Auburn, never played the game in college football. First, Justin Herbert, who many believe could be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy at the end of the season. This is a very good big game, not only for Oregon, but the entire Pac-12 conference. It's really the only marquee game that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. I'm going to roll with the Ducks on this one. I think that Oregon comes in there. They get revenge from that national championship game all those years back. I think Oregon wins this game. It should be close. Mario Cristobal is going to get a signature win in his time as the Ducks head coach.
All right, well, you know, I already picked Auburn as my deep sleeper, so do you really think that I'm going to pick them to lose the season opener? I mean, come on, like, that's a stretch. I gave you plenty of reasons why I think Auburn is going to do great. So let's talk about Oregon. Oregon last year in their bowl game played Michigan State and won 7-6. I'm sorry, that's pathetic. 7-6. Are you kidding?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, Auburn and Michigan State's defense is very good, very comparable. I'd say that Auburn's is definitely better. And if Auburn is up against Oregon, I think that they're going to have an issue. I think your little Duckies are going to take a beating. I'm not going to lie.
Well, you know, every time you want to doubt Gus Malzahn, he'll come out and do something crazy. Last year they knocked off Washington, and years past he's knocked off Georgia and Auburn in the same season. So every time you want to throw in the towel on Malzahn, he does something. He might do it again tonight. We'll see.
I don't think so, but
yeah, he's
it's your opinion.
Solid coach. We'll see.
You know, the Tigers, they do look big and scary, but honestly, I don't think this is the Little Ducks. I think I'm going to pick the Mighty Ducks, Oregon this year. They got Justin Herbert. He's going to want to come out. He's a Heisman candidate potentially, and he's going to want to have a big game early. Plus, Bo Nix for Auburn. I mean, come on. You're going to be a true freshman. That's big, big, big shoes to fill in that first game. I can't see him coming out here and just making a staple win early in the season. And also, when we're talking about it, Auburn has stout D, yes, but they allowed 377 yards against Alabama and Tua in the passing game, and they allowed 200 yards against Jake Fromm in the passing game. So when it comes down to it, I just see Herbert torching it, lighting it up. Quack, quack, quack.
Great start for his Heisman campaign. It really could be.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
we'll see.
I don't know. I feel like it's going to be an interesting game because they're playing a different team, a different defense. Just, I don't know. Overall, I don't know. I just got to stick with Auburn, like true to my heart this year. I think that they're going to pull through.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, all right, Shannon, let's focus our attention kind of on the Houston game that's coming up tomorrow. What are your guys' final thoughts on all of this that's happening?
Who are they playing? I'm just kidding. Yeah, Oklahoma, Houston, that's going to be awesome. It's going to be Sunday night under the lights. I've never seen anything like that in my time here at OU, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Dana Holgorsen back in town. I think Oklahoma's going to win the game. I think, you know, a lot of people have different expectations for this defense. Oklahoma has a lot of depth on the defense. If you take a look at the depth chart, it's a team that's filled with a roster that's been around for quite a while. That's not necessarily saying that it's going to be a complete turnaround, but I do think the defense makes strides, and it starts this Sunday. Neville Gallimore is going to be the anchor of the defensive line. He'll have Jalen Redmond likely next to him, as well as a slew of really good linebackers, a lot of depth there. I think that Oklahoma will win this game 45-31. I'm excited to see what the Oklahoma offense is going to look like, and I'll be interested to see how much Lincoln Riley opens up the playbook. Obviously, UCLA didn't look good, and they're lost to Cincinnati on Thursday. So the Sooners may not be tested really after this Houston game until they see Texas and Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. So we'll see. But I have the Sooners winning tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to agree. I'm really excited to see Jalen Hurts play. I know he's been talked about this entire time, but I'm excited to see him show out. And I don't know, to see what he can prove with OU and like all the hype. I don't know. I'm excited. And you already talked about the defense I was going to highlight on, but I don't know. I'm excited for the game. It's going to be great. It's tomorrow, and Yeah,
it's
I
here.
think it's going to be awesome.
Finally.
Yeah, it's here. I feel like we've been waiting years for this.
Yes,
game, but
especially because ours is on Sunday, and everyone else either plays today or they already played, and they've already seen their players interact with each other on the field. But this is going to be our first time.
I feel like it's going to make it even more hype because it's on Sunday, and it's like, oh, everybody needs to watch the OU game. Yeah, let's go. I'm excited. Yeah. But yeah, I do think that the Sooners are going to win. I'm going to say 42-17. So
17, wow.
Yeah, I think
James,
it's going to be a blowout.
What do you think?
Honestly, looking at it right now, I think the storyline of tomorrow is going to be how does the Grinch steal defense? Now, the biggest thing, they're playing Houston. So off the bat, that's not the most explosive offense in the country, but they want to get off to a good start. And the biggest thing that people are going to do is overreact. No matter what the score is tomorrow, if the Sooners win, people will either say, oh, it's the greatest defense ever, we're going to go to the playoffs, or if it gets torched, they're all going to say, oh, nothing's changed. So they have to watch out about overreactions with it. But I think final score tomorrow, I'm going with 45-20, OU. I see them coming in. If Alex Grinch can improve the defense a little more, we may be seeing a stout Oklahoma team for another year in a row.
Could be.
Okay, yeah. You got to think about, too, on the flip side, the last time that OU and U of H played, we kind of had a little bit of an upset there, and it went a little wonky, not as planned. So you guys seem very hopeful for what's to come. I mean,
you got to stay optimistic. You got to stay optimistic.
Oh, you have to. I was straight up.
You never know.
Yeah, and how does OU defend Derek King?
Derek King, that's going to be a good challenge. I'm going to be interested to see that. Derek King missed, I think, the last couple games of the season, but he'll be back. He'll be healthy, and he's playing with Dana Holgerson as his head coach. Dana's has a really good staff too. They're going to come ready to play. I think he'll probably get around. He'll get some big plays in early before the defense really gets settled and comfortable with whatever the scheme's going to be, whatever their game plan is. So you might see Derek King make a couple big passes, make even probably a couple big runs. But I think as the game progresses, Oklahoma will settle him down. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's going to take a couple of plays to get a handle on him, but once we do, I think once we got him locked in, that it's not going to be a problem shutting him down.
Yeah, honestly, when I'm looking at it, what I want to see the Sooners do, lock up those receivers. Make him panic in the pocket and have a quarterback spy. Now, you got to think about it. This man's athletic. He's talented. So who do you put there as a spy? I'm glad I'm not Grinch. I don't want to have to game plan for that.
No.
But honestly, looking at it, whatever they're going to choose to do tomorrow, they have to take away that passing option and make him get yards with his feet first.
Yeah, the Sooners probably wish they had Trey Norwood for this game, but as it is, they're not going to have him, unfortunately. But Parnell Motley, I think, led the team in interceptions last year, so hopefully he's re-energized with a new cornerbacks coach, new coordinator. I think Oklahoma, I mean, they have the potential to make a really big statement.
Yeah, well, we're going to close it out here at the desk. So thank you for watching Game Day U here at the University of Oklahoma in Gaylord College. Oklahoma football is back. We are so pumped for tomorrow, and we hope you have a great game day.